Earhart meeting from, sorry, we are recording this meeting. All right, welcome everybody. My name is Heather Seifert and I'm going to kick us off tonight, and then I'm turning it over to Cynthia Redinger, who's going to run us through most of the meeting. But I did have a few things to go over to begin with. Again, my name is Heather Seifert and I'm a planner and community engagement specialist in the systems planning unit. We've got more people that are joining. So here are a few things that we want to start with right off the bat. One, we're already experiencing some Zoom glitches tonight, so we just preemptively apologize for that. And if it does crash, we'll just relaunch the meeting. So click on the link again if you all get booted out, and we'll try to keep carrying on and move past any issues that we have. Other things that you should know: you can rejoin the meeting anytime. You can leave and rejoin at any time unless you get kicked out, but don't let it come to that. There'll be multiple opportunities for input during this meeting. We're actually going to have an interactive exercise later on in this meeting. Cynthia is going to explain that. This meeting is being recorded. It's currently recording right now. The recording of the meeting will be posted up on the website that you see right there, which is a2gov.org/Earhart 2023. All right, next slide. So here are some common meeting norms that we have that we just want to post up here. Really, this is just to remind everybody to treat each other with respect. Don't critique other people. Don't take personal digs at each other. But you can, of course, critique ideas. You can offer your opinion, but we just ask that everybody respects one another and speaks in kind ways to one another. All right, next slide. All right, demographics. So we are in an effort to try to understand who is coming to our meetings, so we can make sure we have that understanding and also understand who we're not reaching. We're trying to make a concerted effort to be able to reach people that have not traditionally had a voice in city decision making. So we ask that you just indulge us and take this demographic survey. It is optional and it is anonymous. I'm not going to share the results. We just use it behind the scenes to assess who we're reaching so we can get a sense of who we're not reaching. So I'm going to launch that poll right now, and I'll give a couple minutes for people to take that. All right, here we go. And I see that we're having more people join the meeting as this poll is up. For those of you who just joined, this is a poll to get a sense of who we're reaching at our meetings and who we're not reaching at our meetings. It's a demographic poll. We will not be sharing this. This is anonymous. We just use this for our own purposes to get a sense of, again, who we're reaching and who we're not reaching. We'll give it about another minute or so. All right, I'm going to end the poll now. And 5 more seconds. I see that somebody is just finishing up a question. Okay, I'm going to end it now. All right, thank you everyone for taking that poll. We really appreciate you helping us with this work. All right, we can forward it on. Okay, technology overview. I think most people are probably used to Zoom at this point in the game, though, again, we do run into glitches and we are experiencing some tonight. To help you out a little bit, here are some instructions. We do have the chat feature that's available tonight. That's at the bottom of the page, so you can submit thoughts through that chat feature. And then you can also raise your hand if you do want to speak. You can raise your hand by going to the reactions, which is at the bottom of the page, and then clicking on raise hand. And then for those of you who are on the phone, you can hit *9 to raise your hand, and we will call on you and unmute you. We'll call on you by identifying the last 3 digits of your phone number. All right. And then here's where I turn it over to Cynthia. Take it away.
Thanks, Heather. For those of you who maybe came in a little bit late, once again, welcome to this public meeting for the Earhart 2023 project. We're going through our introductions and our welcome and our Zoom overview right now, and then we want to go through a little bit of the corridor's history as far as public participation goes, and then we're going to be going over our meeting objectives for this evening. And as Heather said earlier, we're going to be doing a group exercise this morning, and the majority of our time will be spent on that group exercise. And then we will take some time for the groups to report out, and then staff would like to go through next steps for this project with you. So today's team, this slide really represents the project's core team. So we have Dave Degman with us, who is our project manager for the project. Myself, Cynthia Redinger, I'm the transportation engineer assigned to this project. Heather Seyfarth, as she said earlier, she's in systems planning, and she is a planner and a public engagement specialist. And we also have Andrea Wright with us from the engineering department, who is helping us with public engagement as well. I'd also like to acknowledge some other staff members that we have with us this evening who will just be here to help out. We have Raymond Hess, who is the manager for the transportation group. And we also have Anna Pasek. She is our transportation engineering intern this year. In addition to staff, I would like to acknowledge that we do have Council Member Lin Song on the call with us, and we welcome you this evening as well. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is we really want to understand who we have with us this evening. For those of you who participated in the demographics poll, that's great. We appreciate that very much, but we as staff aren't going to be seeing that. So we would like to see who is here today and understand what your perspectives are regarding, your perspectives just from the type of transportation user you are. So we're going to go ahead and launch this poll, and we'd like you to just take some time to tell us about yourself. The first question is a single choice question regarding where you live, but the second question is a multiple choice question, and you can pick as many selections as you would like. We did get a comment from the Noon group that they didn't identify with any of those particular items, and they wanted to identify as someone who drives but is not a commuter. And you can identify sort of your mode choice in the next question that we ask. This is more about kind of where you're coming from. We'll give a little bit of time for everyone to get those questions answered. To anyone who has joined us, we have our first poll of the evening open, and this poll is just telling us a little bit about yourself and your perspective. The first question is a single choice question, but the second question you can select as many as apply to you. And just give a couple more moments for anyone who has a more recent arrival. Okay, let's go ahead and show the results. Okay, so we have a variety of perspectives with us this evening. We have a good percentage of residents who live adjacent to the project area and city residents who live outside of the project area as well. And we also have some folks who are outside of the city. I want to thank you all for showing up this evening. It is good to get a diversity of opinions. And we have some folks who are identifying as parents and guardians. We have a variety of commuter styles, and we have a good number of pedestrians and cyclists with us this evening. All right, well, thank you. I'm gonna go ahead.
We do have somebody that left a note that they occasionally go to the area.
Okay. Thank you, Heather. All right, so moving forward, we want to take a little bit of time just to talk about public participation in this corridor and what has historically occurred, and put us in that context as we move forward with this project. So we're starting with the 2013 update to the non-motorized plan. And in that plan, the corridor was identified as a potential location for lane reductions and installing bicycle infrastructure. In 2018, staff started on a citywide review of any outstanding lane reconfigurations. And so that was the last time that a technical review of the corridor was done. In 2019, our group, the transportation group, kicked off the transportation plan update process. And this is an important milestone because this is the first comprehensive transportation plan that includes both the motorized and non-motorized, and it also was a process designed to have a safety focus, particularly vision zero reduction of severe and fatal injury crashes. So also in 2019, we had an engagement effort for this particular corridor in which staff was looking at a paint and post project, and that project did not proceed. So we're starting from scratch with project-based outreach for this corridor, this section of the corridor, I should say. In 2019, in November, that was when the Mobility in Ann Arbor fact book was published as part of the transportation plan update process. The plan process also hosted a bicycle open house, and the A20 sustainability plan process kicked off. In 2020, the A20 plan was unanimously adopted by council. In 2021, we produced the draft transportation plan in January. And then in June, so earlier this year, we had the A2 moving together, or Ann Arbor moving together towards Vision Zero, its long name, was unanimously adopted by council. And both of those plans are available on the city's website. So now here we are in December of 2021, and we're just starting to kick off this project for Earhart, which will be constructed in 2023. So we're at the very beginning of this project process. And that's really important to keep in mind because, what we want to get out of this evening, our meeting objectives, are that at the end of this meeting, staff want to understand how you currently travel through the corridor, how you want to travel through this corridor, and what barriers prevent you from traveling the way that you want to. So We don't have plans to present to you this evening. We don't have concepts, we don't have sketches because we haven't gotten there yet. Really this evening, we want to understand what your values for this corridor are. So to start out with, we'd like to know how you're currently traveling in the corridor. So we can go ahead and launch this poll, and we'll give a couple of minutes for you to read through and respond to this. This is also a multiple choice poll, and you can select as many items as apply to you. We do have a question in the chat, and that is, why are we starting from scratch when there were surveys conducted and concepts produced several years ago? And is it only because that council at the time voted the plan down? So we're starting from scratch because we are in a little bit of a different space. Travel has changed across the city throughout the recent years with the pandemic. So we're really starting at that baseline and looking to see how the community feels about travel and kind of where we are. But at the same time, we do have policy documents in both the A20 and the transportation plan that are already pointing us in a direction. So part of our decision-making process will be looking at where policy is leading and then also complementing that with the values that we're getting out of this engagement effort. I think looks like can't tell. I think we're okay to go ahead and close out this poll, and then we can look at what our results are. So we have lots of folks who are currently 61% who are currently walking and running, 39% who are riding a bike. We have some transit users from a variety of different transit. We also have some other personal motorized and non-motorized mobility devices. I am very interested if anyone wants to share what those other devices might be. You can raise your hand or you could type it into the chat, because I'm very interested in what any of those uses are, and also personal vehicle use. Okay. So now that you've told us how you're using the corridor, we really want to know, how do you want to travel in the corridor? If you had no barriers that were impeding your ability to make a choice, how would you prefer to be traveling in the corridor? So we'll go ahead and launch that poll. And I just want to remind everyone that you can choose more than one item. This is also a multiple choice, but it looks like Folks are pretty comfortable with that. We have a lot of representation in here. Okay, I think we can go ahead and share the results of this poll. So what we've heard from you is that there's a strong interest in using the corridor as a pedestrian. There's a strong interest in using the corridor as a cyclist. We also have a lot of interest in transit and some interest in some other personal non-motorized vehicles. And really, if anybody wants to tell us what that is, I really am curious. Nobody ever takes me up on it though. And still personal vehicle use. Okay. So thank you all for participating in those polls and letting us know where you are in your travels currently and how you would like to travel. And now what we really want to do is talk about what the barriers are for you to traveling in the way that you would like to travel. So this is where we're going to get into our group exercise, and this will be the majority of our time this evening. We're going to divide into 2 equal groups, and I think we're at about 25 right now. So they won't be exactly equal. We can't split a person into 2. And then we will have, so we'll have a good sized group to be working with, but I don't think it's unmanageable. And as part of our group exercise, all ideas are welcome in the group. And we're going to be using a card storming exercise to organize the group's ideas. Now, what's a card storming exercise? Card storming enables everyone to get their ideas out and onto a sticky note and gives the group a way to organize the ideas. Now, if we were in person and sitting around a table together, I would literally hand you a stack of large Post-it notes and some pens, and you could start sketching out some ideas. Since we do not have that option right now, we will be using Jamboard, and each of the groups will have a unique Jamboard to work on. And you will be able to use an electronic sticky note to put your ideas down. And then the group will work together to theme those ideas and kind of group them into categories. So some key tips for this exercise are that all ideas are welcome, and participants will be given some quiet time to put your thoughts together and onto sticky notes. And then the group will work together to sort those ideas into themes. The facilitator will not move cards unless instructed or, with agreement from the group. And another thing that I want to stress is that when it comes to sorting things into themes, it's really important to keep one idea on a sticky note. So if you have 2 concerns that are closely related, you might be tempted to put them all on one sticky note, but it's helpful to have those on separate sticky notes. And I would like to know, oh, we have a comment. Okay. And yeah, that's just what they someone considers personal mobility devices to be. I'm actually interested if someone is using a different type of mobility device, if you're using an electric scooter or a non-electric scooter or a skateboard, or I'm just curious what it is that you've put in there and what some of those other transportation users might be. All right, so what we're going to do is Heather is going to work at setting us up into breakout sessions. Before we get into the breakout session, does anybody have any questions right now? You can raise your hand or you can drop it in the chat before we break out into our group work.
Not seeing any hands raised yet.
Okay, nope, me either. And when we get into our groups, you will get a link to Jamboard. Jamboard, it is a separate, you'll need to open it in a web browser so that you can participate and add directly. If you're not comfortable doing that, you can feel free to put your thoughts into the Zoom chat, and one of the facilitators will go ahead and move those thoughts onto sticky notes for you. So,
all right, is everybody ready to go into the breakout session?
I don't
see any hands up. Okay, well, I'm gonna divide you up into two groups. Bear with me. Oh, here's another person that's joining us. It's Jen Cornell, who's on the Council of the Commons. Welcome, Jen. We're just getting into groups, into breakout groups. So you'll be assigned to a breakout group, Jen. And we're talking about the barriers to the way you want to be able to go through the corridor. All right, so I'm gonna create the groups. All right, I think everybody's back from the breakout rooms.
Heather, I can go ahead and start our report out from my group, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Okay. All right. So we had some great discussion and lots of ideas in our group, and some pretty strong themes in crosswalks and crosswalk design, and the need for more crosswalks and the need for a higher level of design was expressed. We also had a lot of discussion about sidewalks and the need for sidewalks and crosswalks being dependent on where sidewalks are, and making sure that all of those connections are established. And then we had a lot of thoughts on bike facilities and the need to have bicycling infrastructure on this corridor, and some of it is what that bicycling infrastructure should look at. And then we also had some discussions about the way the street is designed and the way the intersections are designed. And this pink sticky note that's down here kind of bridges those two concepts. So we have those in here, and a lot of discussion about how design and speed interact with each other, and how design and speed and safety interact with each other. And then we had some discussion about the northern extent of the project and US 23, and how what we might design will interact with the bridge over US 23, and the fact that that is MDOT's bridge and it is out of our control, but also, how do our design decisions influence MDOT? And down here in the corner, we had lots of conversation about speed as well, and driver speed choice. And then we had just a couple of miscellaneous items down here. And one is concerning the amount of traffic on the street. And so as a group, we had a little bit of discussion about how that design influences traffic volume and who some of those users might be. And then we also have a comment about lighting, and that's corridor lighting, not necessarily intersection or crosswalk lighting, but lighting along the corridor. And then also a concern about Plymouth that's outside of the project area, but we have captured here as well. And I'll stop sharing so that our other group can go ahead and report out.
All right, greetings everyone. I'm Raymond Hess. I have drawn the short straw to share the group of, or the findings of the other group. So hopefully coming through. Can I get a thumbs up from one of the team members if it's showing?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yep, we can see it.
Great, thank you. Normally I get a green box, but I'm not seeing it around the screen. All right, so a lot of similar themes emerged with us as well. Probably one of the more predominant themes was about vehicle speeds. So you can see we had several comments that cars are traveling too fast along the corridor. There were quite a few comments in this next column about bicycle facilities and infrastructure or lack thereof, that it's hard to bike along the corridor, or that the interaction with cyclists and drivers might be aggressive. The next column talks about pavement condition and quality. And this is from all road user perspectives. So some is from the perspective of a cyclist, some is related to perspective of motorists. And then we put this comment about heavy trucks under this as well, because heavy trucks obviously influence the pavement condition, but that probably might have implications on other user experiences as well when there's a lot of heavy truck traffic on a roadway. Pedestrian infrastructure is this next column, and was another predominant theme that came through about the lack of sidewalks, discontinuous sidewalks. Also, some of the crossings are uncomfortable and are challenging for pedestrians, so that came through several times. And on a kind of related note, especially with crossings, there were several comments about just how wide the road is, how large the intersections are, and how difficult they are to navigate. Again, from multiple user perspectives, right? From pedestrians, from vehicles, from cyclists, you kind of see these themes kind of emerge. We did get a comment about land use or kind of densities, that, you know, a lot of the destinations are kind of spread out along Earhart, and talks about that traveling between them is a desolate experience. So something a little different than we've heard in the other sessions. Corridor lighting came up as well. The other group mentioned that. And then the last column we have has to do with sight lines, kind of blind intersections, the ability to be able to navigate, especially intersections safely, given, you know, all the things that are happening, and maybe not having enough visibility at those approaches. So again, you see a lot of similar themes emerge, and all really great thoughts, and thanks for sharing those with us.
Okay, thanks, Raymond. And thank you everyone for participating in this exercise and sharing all of your great ideas and observations and thoughts. And we really, as staff, do appreciate it, because it helps us understand how you're using the corridor and the things that you see every day. So we wanted to give you a little bit of information about what some of the next steps are for this project. And as we've discussed at a couple different points, we're really early in the process for this project. So we are just kicking off our design process, and the project timeline is that public engagement will go from winter 2021 to spring 2022. And then design will kick off in the spring and go through the winter of next year, with construction happening spring 2023 to fall 2023. So since we are very early on in the process of the project, there will be more opportunities for public engagement. We do anticipate coming back to the public early next year, but we haven't set a date yet. We do have, we're waiting for all of the council and commission calendars to be established for next year before we set a date. So we will be sharing information about that on our website, and on our website you'll also be able to sign up for our Gov delivery channel, and that is a way to get information about the project over email. So additional engagement opportunities that are more near term are that our public meetings today are, as you're aware, are being recorded. They will be posted to our website. And tomorrow we will post an online survey for individuals who were not able to join us at either of these public meetings. So they will be able to watch the recording and then fill out a survey that has the same questions we asked this evening. So they will take the same polls that you did, and they will also be given the opportunity to provide some open-ended feedback. And after we close that survey on December 16th, we will then go through a theming process and be able to have, out of the comments and the observations and the barriers that we receive through that process, theme those out, and then we will share those themes on our website as well.
And we have 2 questions coming in, or a comment.
Okay.
The first question is it typical for a design to take 8 months?
Yeah. And when we say the design is ongoing, that doesn't mean we're working on it every day for 8 months, but the process, we're going through the process. Dave, do you want to add to that at all?
Yeah, I consider what we're going through right now to be really project development. So we're more in the infancy of this project. We really haven't even just started design. We're using this public engagement to help guide the project along with the city's policies and other standards that we use. But sometimes, yeah, the design process could take up to 2 years, just depending on, the complexities involved with a particular project.
And then the next comment for the question is that it's great that the city is again taking up Earhart, but it's too bad that it's starting at square one when the planning process was much further along several years ago. Do you have anything else to add to that, project team?
Yeah, I think we have policy that will point us in a direction, but I think for this project, taking a moment to step back and really do a deep dive into how users are using the corridor and how users want to use the corridor, and kind of what those values that are coming out of our theming session is going to help us as a team look at the different interests in the corridor and be able to put together design options that really speak to the city's policy and the values of the community members. But I welcome anyone else on the team to put forward some thoughts.
And then another question that came in, glad you were looking at it again, but we gave input a couple years ago and the proposal didn't get approved because allegedly there hasn't been enough serious accidents. What are the chances of this design being approved?
I would approve it on city council. It was one of the reasons why I ran.
Yeah, and maybe if I could add one other thought to kind of the process. I think a lot of where we're at in the process is really dictated by the construction cycle. So if you're not familiar, the city has a capital improvement plan that kind of identifies, 5 years worth of our, major infrastructure projects. So this project is scheduled for, as you saw in that slide from Cynthia, or the slide that's up on the screen, construction is a 2023. So when you kind of, back the calendar, that brings us to where we are today, at the onset of 2021, kind of this ideation and then moving it forward into a design process. So again, we're trying to do our due diligence as staff to make sure that we come up with, a design that reflects, the community desires and addresses the needs. And I think that's, I think the stronger input we have, the more we can reflect that those desires of the community. So.
And then the comment is, the frustration is that there are well-established models of road diets, complete streets, and the proposed road diet for Earhart several years ago was viable and made sense. So with that, maybe I'll add a question to that, which maybe you're trying to get at, is there a chance that elements of the previous design will be revived based on the input that we're receiving now, if it's heading in that direction, if it supports that original design?
I think, Heather, I think that was a great way to kind of sum that up. And I think the answer is definitely yes. As we are moving forward through this design, we still have policy that is pointing us in the direction of including bicycle lanes on this corridor. And we have a sustainability policy that is calling for a 50% reduction in vehicle miles traveled. So every project that we approach, we're looking at transportation options, and we're ultimately looking at how do we make choices that are going to increase safety on the corridor. And this corridor is not a tier 1 or tier 2 safety corridor as identified in the transportation plan, but we will be using safety as a guiding principle as we are making, design decisions throughout the process and for this project. So if there are design elements that were previously proposed that are consistent with policy and community values and still make sense for the corridor, yes, staff will propose those again.
Any other questions? You can go ahead and raise your hand or put something through the chat if you'd like.
It looks like there's another comment in the chat, Cynthia.
Yes, thank you, Michelle. Anna and Michelle for the comment. That safety being, kind of the North Star of the project as we are heading towards Vision Zero, and as we are a Vision Zero city, then making those decisions that will increase safety as throughout the design process. Yes, that is a key component for us in our decision-making process. So we have a question that is, how can we find out about future public engagement opportunities for this project? And on our website, which is listed here, there's a place to sign up for Gov Delivery for the project. And it's a button icon that you can click, and you can sign up with your email address, and you can get automatic updates whenever we have something new going on, that we can push that information out to you.
Cynthia or Raymond, can you clarify if there's two separate places to sign up then for Earhart 2022 and Earhart 2023?
Oh, versus the design, the south end. Yeah, there are two different projects going on, but Cynthia and others can explain that more.
And
So
my
there's-
understanding is the segment further to the south is a 2022 project. It is just, there's a separate initiative for that. So it could be, this is the Earhart 2023 project because that's when it's programmed for construction. Obviously, people are welcome to tune in to either or both of those engagement opportunities. You know, obviously the road profile changes quite a bit the further south you go, right? It turns from that boulevard section into a narrow lane profile. I'm not as up to speed on some of the design elements of that segment. I think we just had some public engagement on that just last month or the month before, Cynthia, I can't recall. But there is information on that website as well.
I am just dropping in the chat the link to the 2022 project.
And there is also a comment. In this meeting, there has been no opportunities for people to participate if they called in on the phone instead of computer. Are there any phone users? Would opportunities have been made for them if there had been any? There are no phone users in this meeting currently. And yes, we would have made opportunities for them. They would obviously would have been, they wouldn't have been able to write out Post-it notes, but in the last meeting this afternoon, what we did was just have people speak their thoughts and then we posted Post-it notes on their behalf. Any other questions or comments?
Well, I don't see any. And I'm pretty impressed. We stayed right on time. I do want to take an opportunity on behalf of all of the staff that are here this evening to thank you for spending your evening with us and for participating in this public engagement process. And we've made PDFs of all of the theme boards that we made today. And those will get posted on our webpage as well if you want to go back and take a look at those. And you will also be able to see the theme boards from the earlier project process. But once again, thank you for coming. If you have any further questions, you can pop those in really quick. And yeah, I think that's it for us.
All right, thank
Have
you,
a good
everyone.
evening, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.